Thanks for joining me on my YouTube channel today. Today I'm going to be working on making some 4x4 ceramic tiles into coasters, as well as 6x6 ceramic tiles into trivets. So I'll show you what the end result looks like. This is what the coaster, one of the coasters, looks like. I usually put them together and form them into, put them really close together when I'm applying the paint, so that it creates a pattern. So you'll see how I do that once we get started. I also coat the top after it's dried, the paint's dried. You put on a coat of resin. That makes it nice and shiny, as you can see here. It also just makes it look really pretty. It also seals the paint. That's what's really important, because a ceramic tile has been baked, so there's no porous section of the tile for the paint to sink into like it does on a canvas. So you're going to need to seal it somehow to keep the paint from peeling back off. And the resin works perfect for that. Also, so it doesn't damage your tables, you line the back with some cork. There's a couple of different options out there on what to use for that as well. So that's a cool craft idea. It's also a cool gift idea too. So I thought it would be fun to show you how to do that for Christmas gifts. This is what the trivet will look like. It is a 6x6 tile. I can get these on Amazon. You can also get these at your local hardware store, like your Home Depot, your Lowe's, those kinds of stores, wherever you live, whatever kind of store has those DIY home improvement kind of things. That's why you'll find these. Same technique that I use on the coaster. You're going to apply your paint, and it's acrylic paint. You're going to let it dry. You're going to apply your resin, then you're going to let that dry. And this one doesn't have it yet because I just did these the other day. But you also put a cork backing on this too, so it doesn't scratch your countertop or table, wherever you plan to use it at. So these are awesome gift ideas. And if you know someone's favorite colors, you just pick those colors out and do a cool design. No two coasters or trivets will ever be the same, so it makes it very unique. It's a gift that they will have that no one else will have in their home. That won't look the same. You know, it's not like the cookie cutter things that you get at your Walmarts and all your big department stores. So, and it's also made with love by you. All right, so here's one more, which were different colors. I thought this one came out really cool. It actually has some nice coloring. I used some metallic paints, which really gave it a nice shiny kind of pretty look. I liked it though. Let me know what you think. The good thing about it is you can pick any colors that you like and design it that way. Or if you're making it for someone else, find out their favorite colors and do it in their favorite colors. All right, I'm going to position the camera down to the tile so you can see what I'm doing, and we'll get started. All right, I think you can see that. We got a little bit of sunlight coming in the window. So now we have a shadow. Let me close that real quick. Let me see if I can get in a little closer. Okay, that takes care of the glare. All right, so first things, we start off with paints that we mix. I use Floetrol, which you can actually get on Amazon as well. I'll try to provide some links for you so you can see the items that you could order if you wanted to try this or not, but they're available for you in the description of the video. Just scroll down and look in the description. So I mix Floetrol with Flow Acrylic by Artist Loft, and that's the white. And so you're always going to have a white background on pour paintings. I've seen it done with black paint before. Haven't attempted that yet. I might have to do that as a video so we can see how it works out. But so we're gonna what we call flood the canvas with our white paint, and our ceramic tiles are our canvas today. And you want to make sure you get the edges so it rolls over the edge and coats the sides. So I always kind of do the edges first and then the middle. All right, so once you get all your tiles covered with the white, or at least coated with the white, then you're going to spread it out. And I came across two awesome tools that if you are going to get involved in pour painting, you may or may not want to invest in these, because I first started off using a popsicle stick. So you can imagine trying to spread white paint on a large canvas with a popsicle stick. Doesn't work out so well. It works okay when you're using small items like these tiles or a small canvas like an 8x10. When you start getting into your anything larger than the popsicle stick, you could probably see why it doesn't work well. So I still use my popsicle sticks occasionally for certain things, but these two items, these two spatulas, which are made by XOXO, they're on Amazon, and I'll put the link down at the bottom for you, so you can check them out and see if you're interested, but they both work awesome. This one works especially well on large canvases because you can spread it. It's tapered on the edge and it's nice and thin. You basically just hold it right above where your paint is and just let it float across the top. This one works, this flat one, which I ordered because I saw it and I thought, there might be some good applications I can use those with, and I do. So this one actually works really good on the small pieces, and I can get it a nice smooth coating all the way across just using this one. And I only have to swipe it one time, which, you know, sometimes life is about time management, and this is definitely a time saver, and it gets it right pretty much on your first swipe. And then you always have a little bit extra on the back side here. So what I do is I go around all the edges and I just tap it, touch that paint to the edge, and make it sink in a little bit, especially if it ran over certain parts of it but didn't run over the rest of it. This way you can kind of cover it the rest of the way, and you know you've got some paint on there. And that's what you need to cover your ceramic tile. Also, the ceramic tiles, there's all different sizes. So, I mean, don't stick to just 4x4s. Get creative. Come up with some new way to do it. When I saw the 4x4s being done, I thought of the Trivets, because when I went to the store, I saw the 6x6 tiles right next to the 4x4s. And I was like, ooh, those would make really cool Trivets using the same technique. So that's how the Trivet idea was born, just by seeing the video on the coasters. Anyway, so now that we've got our coasters coated, we're going to pick some colors. And then we're also going to slide these cups in close. I have them on top of cups so that the paint doesn't accumulate underneath the sides. You know, it's going to roll over, so you need it above whatever plane you're working on. I coat my table with parchment paper, and it works awesome because the paint peels right off the right off of it, so it makes it real easy to unstick things if they stick. But for today, I use these. I'll show you the cups I use. I get them at like Sam's Club, Costco. You can probably get them on Amazon too. You can get everything on Amazon these days. So just these little Dixie cups that you buy for your bathrooms for the kids to fill up with water or whatever. I just set it under the tile. I'll show you how it's sitting under this one right here. See how it sits there? You just put the tile right in the middle on top of your cup. It balances on there fairly well. It also helps to keep it level, because if your coasters or canvas, whatever you're working on, is not level, the paint will roll right off the edge, and that's never good, because then your whole design that you came up with rolls right off the canvas. So and that's not what we're going for. So next we're going to pick our colors. I use these really cool bottles because when I first started, I was using these little cups like this, filling them with paint, but then my paint would go to waste because I didn't always use all the paint. So I found that these, I used to bake cakes, I still do sometimes, so I actually had some of these, not this particular brand, but Wilton makes some for doing your icing and creating stuff with your cakes and your frosting. So that's how I remembered that I had these, and I thought that would be a way better way to put just a small amount of paint, because sometimes it pours right out of the cup and it's hard to control. But with this bottle, it's way easier to control. So if you're really going to get into this and do this on a, more often than not, the bottles are a good investment. So you can find these on Amazon too, and you can find really good deals on Amazon for the bottles. So today I'm going to start with, I tried to do some Christmas ones the other day, and the bright red ends up turning into pink. I tried a darker red, and it still turns into a darker pink. And I really didn't want pink. I actually wanted red. So we're going to try something different today. I'm going to start off with this green color. It's actually phthalo green, and I think it's by Liquitex. And you can get it online. You can get it at your local craft store, Hobby Lobby, you know, those kinds of stores, whatever kind of craft store you have near where you live. And they have all different kinds of paints. The other thing is you do have to thin them just like you do the white paint. So depending on what type of paint is, your craft paints are going to be thinner, so you're just going to use less water, and you might not have to use any water with the craft paints, honestly. And then the thicker paints, the thicker acrylics, the hard, what's it called? I guess they're thick-bodied is what I think what they're called. They will require water to make them thin out so that they pour properly. Because you want it to just be able to, you know, flow right across your canvas, whatever type of canvas you're using. So today, Phthalo Green. Sorry, I'm going to go over colors one more time. Phthalo Green by Liquitex. Silver. The silver is actually a Extra Sheen, I believe, by Deco Art. And it is a metallic. And it actually does really well with the cell activation. And this one, I believe, he's more purple. So he is, what is it called? I always forget the names of all these. I have them in my head and then I forget. Oh, there it is. Ultramarine Blue. Ultramarine Blue is always, if you compare them to others, he's a little bit more purplish than your other blues. So that's an easy way to remember. If you have two blues next to each other, which one has more purple? And that's your ultramarine. So we're going to get a little bit of ultramarine on here. I don't do any specific, no, some people just do circles. There's all different ways to do this. So today I'm just going to throw some paint on there in the pile and then go with it. So that's what we're doing. All right, so I've got three colors: the Phthalo Green, Ultramarine Blue, and the metallic silver. And actually, I think I'm going to add some of this blue. This one is an aqua, and I want to say it's by Deco Art and or Artislav, one of those. Can't remember which one. They have similar colors. When you go to the art store, it doesn't really matter. Just pick the colors you like. That's all that matters. And then go with it. And you know what? I think we're going to actually do some purple too. This purple is Diox Purple by Liquitex. And it is very dark. But it's very pretty. When it mixes with the white, it'll make different shades of purple, which is why it's so cool to use. Because you can pick one color and get lots of colors out of it, because it mixes with the white. So then you put your white in there. Sometimes you can blow it over if you want. I tend to just add it this way because the tiles are so small. You start blowing and it blows the paint right off. So I learned the hard way that I can do this differently. So it's kind of a trial and error. Figure it out one thing at a time. You know, if it's not working out the first time, you just scrape the paint right off. Use your cool spatula. It scrapes things off awesomely. Once you get it scraped off, you start over. No big deal. Your paint's, you're ready to start your paint again. So I'm just putting a little more white here because I see that it kind of rolled off. So, and we want it to be able to flow easily. All right, there's several ways to do this also. You can use your mouth. You can use your straw, or any kind of straw. Lots of people use straws. I'm not a fan of the straws because of the designs that it forces are real skinny. And if that's the effect you're going for, a straw is perfect. But a lot of times I'm looking for something has a wider pattern. So the straws don't work well. The hairdryer, you can find different attachments for it. Like this one. It's got a pretty wide attachment. This little guy right here that clips on the front. I use it on low speed because it's pretty hefty hairdryer. But I know Conair has some like $9.99 ones at Walmart that you can use, but you have to use it on high because it just doesn't spray the air as fast as some of the more expensive ones. But it doesn't take an expensive one. In fact, you don't even need one. You can just use your mouth. Okay, so what I do to get the bubbles out, because the bubbles will make your paint come up from once it pops, if it does pop, or it leaves little bumps in your final product, and you don't want that. So you use one of these butane torches. Get these on Amazon as well. This one happens to be Kollea, and it works awesome. You can tell I use it all the time. It's got paint everywhere. So you just turn it on, and you see the flame, and you're going to touch the flame just a little bit onto your paint. You see the bubbles. I don't know if you can see that from this angle, but you can see them all the bubbles rise right to the top and pop. I don't go over my colors too much because it makes them separate. And I'll use that again at the end to get some cells to form if none are forming quickly. Let me put a little bit more white on this because it's sat for a bit. And then, rule number 1, if you're gonna use your mouth, put your hair back, take off your necklaces, and watch where you put your head, because sometimes you just get really close and you get paint everywhere. So just keep that in mind. And wear clothes that you don't mind getting paint on, because inevitably it happens. So here we go. Okay, I'm liking those colors. It's coming out nice. Alright, so that's using my mouth. We're going to try this again, but we're also going to try, let me get this little spot off of there. There's a couple little spots. If there's a couple spots that you don't like, you can come back and move them around using any kind of tool that you can come up with. I've seen lots of people use all kinds of tools, so hey, experiment. Use different things and see what works best. See what you like too. I mean, some things make certain effects. Like I can use this to add a little bit of color into these white spots because it doesn't have much color. So I just kind of dip it somewhere else and then I'll add a little bit of color. It's all what you want to make it, right? And it'll all be different. No two will ever be the same, which is what I really like about this style and method. All right. Okay. So that's the 4x4. We're going to torch it also. Once you get it spread out where you want it, I think I might need a few more angles here though. It looks kind of straight. All right. So let's hit it with the torch. And you'll see what the effect the torch has on it. Hopefully you can see it. It brings out, if there's color underneath a certain part of the white, it'll separate that white and bring that color to the top a little bit. So it adds a little more dimension. Typically these look like flowers when you blow them, or fans of some type. So I try to put the torch where I think it'll give it a little bit more color, a little bit more personality, make it look prettier and not so plain. So there you go. Then we're going to pull these apart once we get that set where we want it. We'll pull these apart and let the paint run down those 4 extra sides so that it all comes together. Pull these 2 apart. And then you just let them sit and drip. Also, last but not least, we're going to clean off the edges that are dripping so we don't have big drip spots underneath on the edges. So you're just going to take your popsicle stick or whatever you want to use. You could also use your spatula for this. That works too. I do that on the larger pieces. I use the spatula because it has more surface to it. But for these little things, the popsicle stick works really well. I've seen people use like skewers. I mean, it's left up to your imagination, what works for you. and what tools and resources you have available. Anybody can do this. There's more than one way to skin a cat. That's what my granny used to say. Alright, once you get this cleaned off, then you just let them sit somewhere where they won't be disturbed, and you want to try to keep them level so that they don't, so the paint doesn't run off one way or the other. So it's really important that you get your paint the consistency, so it's not too runny or not too thick. If it's too thick, it's not gonna set properly. It's not gonna flow for you. When you try to blow it, it won't blow right. It'll just get stuck. And if you have it too thin, it runs right off the canvas, whatever style canvas you've got going on. And so keeping it level will help it from doing that. If you have made your paint a little bit too thin, which it's actually pretty forgiving, this paint style, I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect consistency. You can be off a little bit here and there, and it's okay as long as you keep your product level. That's why they're on these little cups. So yeah, so you just look at the edges and make sure everything's got some paint on it so it dries and it has a nice coat of acrylic on it. Alright, let's see if I can make this a little bit closer in for you. The sun is starting to set, so it's coming in the window now. Alright, let's see. I guess that's as close as it's going to get today. Alright, hopefully you can see everything. Okay, so off to the Trivets. Trivets are over here. I've got 2 of them. They're 6x6. Also, you can get those online. I've seen them on Amazon. If you don't like to go or you're not near a hardware store, you can get these on Amazon, which is kind of nice. So we first start off, we're going to flood it with our white. I usually start with the edges. You can do it however you like, though. You don't have to do it my way. That's what I've discovered as I started to learn how to do this technique. I kind of came up with my own ways of doing it. You know, some ways might work well for the person that's on the screen doing it, but when you try to do it yourself, you're like, that didn't work out so well. So come up with your own ways to do it. All right, got that on there. We're going to take our trusty little spatula here and give it a good spread. Make sure it's nice and coated all the way around. And when I do the coasters and the Trivets, I usually line them up on the table and I just go around the table and I'll create 6 to 10 at a time just because it's easier. Because of the time that you have to wait in between for everything to dry, you don't get much done if you're only doing one set of everything once, or, or at a time. So I try to do several at a time, and that way I have plenty for the farmers markets. I go to the farmers market here in St. Augustine at the pier every Wednesday, which is a really awesome, the people there are just amazing. Everyone's so kind and helpful. I mean, I learn something new from one of the other market people every time I go, and everyone's just very generous with their ideas and how they do things, because I'm new at this, so at least the farmer market thing. So don't forget to pop your bubbles with your torch. You may or may not be able to see that well from that angle. Okay, I think I got everything except for there's this one little thingy in the middle. I think it's my paint. There we go. Alright, I think I got a couple more here. I had to shake these paints when I made them because I made them kind of quick, so they hadn't had time for the bubbles to get out, but that's what the torch is for. The torch helps us to keep everything happy. Alright, so I'm thinking these colors are actually really popular in this this area because we live near the water. When you put the blues and the greens and the purples together, it looks like the ocean. So, and it makes a pretty background for wherever you are. But lots of people like those colors. I get praises at the farmers markets about those colors. So I tend to stick with those because I know that's what people like. And I like them too. They're some of my favorite colors as well. So we are going to stick with those, but we're just going to change it up a little bit. When I do the coasters, I tend to start in this corner here. The coasters and the Trivets. put your paint on however you like. You can do all circles. I tend to try to spread it out because sometimes when you just do circles, the paints don't come close to each other, all the colors, so you don't really get a good mix of all the colors with different shades. You miss out on some of the colors, so I do it this way so that it has all the paint has an opportunity to blend. All right, gold or silver, that is the question. There's also a cool bronze that I have that comes out nice, but we're gonna try some gold in this one. I think we did silver in the last one. Gold, the metallic golds always tend to make really pretty cells. Didn't do very much in this one. There's some cells. And the other thing about this is you can blow really softly on these and it'll make the cells bigger without changing their shape. It just makes them larger, which is kind of cool on bigger canvases. That's a good way to do things, to try and get it to blend well. Try the purple too. Did I do purple? Don't think I did. Alright, got some purple there. What else? I think we're going to add a little bit of pink to this one. You can use as many colors as you want or few colors as you want, because what ends up happening is the white mixes with them all, and then the white creates shades of all of those colors as you go. So try not to get this to roll off. So we got our white coating on the top, and then we blow. And these are way easier to blow on because they're not as big as the 4 coasters. So here we go. Oops, stuck my shirt in it. Okay, that was a weird blend. Okay, so this one I'm going to blow over the edge because there's lots of paint. Sometimes when you have a little bit too much paint, it just piles up and you can only see the color that's on the top, but there's lots of colors underneath. So I'm going to blow some of this over the edge to kind of thin it out a little bit. That's another way to get some of the extra paint off. Or you can do the tilt thing like this. You can tilt it and let it come up with a different design when you have lots of paint like that. But I like the way the effects are when you blow them because it actually gives it a different shape. But today, since we have lots of paint on here, I'm just going to run it off the edge. You see how it was running over the edge there? It's kind of creating a totally different pattern than the other method creates more of a watery pattern. I was trying to get rid of some of this white here at the bottom. It's really white. See if we have enough paint to do that. Okay, it's getting close to the edge. That's good. Let's go back this way. Watch what it does the other way. This one's coming out kind of cool. Alright. I think that's good. We're getting a more even amount of white space on there. Okay, this one's done. Just gonna squeeze it over here a little bit. Wipe off my hands. And yeah, I'm gonna start the next one. That one came out kind of nice. I like the colors. The pinks, the purples, and the blues and the greens always make for pretty colors together. That's just my opinion though. But you know what? You can create whatever color scheme you like. Alright. Okay, let's get started on the next one. Alright, let's do different colors. I did some ones that had yellow and gold in them the other day, and an orange, and they actually came out really pretty, kind of fall colors. And but I added a little bit of purple in there and some light green, and it really came out really nice. So let's try some of that. what we get. And we'll use the gold. The gold actually ends up looking like silver because it blends with the white, or not silver, I'm sorry. It ends up looking like a yellow, but because I'm using the metallic, it gives it a shimmer, which comes out really pretty after you put the resin glaze on top of these. I mean, it just looks spectacular. It's very nice. All right, let's see, what do we want to start with? I've got this this green actually is a metallic green, so I'm going to use this one this time. And we're going to do something a little different too. Let me do this one. Got orange. Actually, let's don't use orange. Okay, so if you don't know about mixing paints, you don't really have to, because you can experiment it, and if it doesn't come out the color you want it to come out, then don't mix those two together. And they say it doesn't matter what you put where, but I have found in my own experimenting, it does matter what colors you put where. Because your reds, your oranges, your yellows, when they blend with other colors like blues, they kind of turn brown. So you're going to get what we call the muddy effect. And you don't want the muddy effect because it dulls all your colors out. So to keep your colors nice and bright, just be cognizant of what colors you're putting where. So when you put yellow with green, you won't get mud because yellow is part of green, right? When you mix blue and yellow, you get green, right? Yeah. And red and blue, you get purple. So just keep those, the primary colors are going to create the rest of your colors. That's another thing you can stick with. Stick with your primary colors. And then you know that your colors are going to blend into more vibrant colors. When you start doing tertiary colors, 3 colors that have, like this is something that's been mixed to make this color, right? So it's not a primary color. But yeah, okay, I digress. Let's put a little bit of purple in here, just a little bit. I'm putting too much paint on this one too, and I typically do that. I typically put too much paint. Should pink or red? Let's see, pink or red. Here's the red, here's the pink. I think the pink will be better. Let's go with the pink, because that'll blend with the purples, and it'll probably come out lighter pink in some spots. Okay, now we get the white out. I'm going to put us a nice little base here for it to roll into. Make sure we got a good base for it to roll into. If it hits a spot where there's not enough paint, it stops flowing and it won't go further until you add more paint there or do something different. This time I'm going to show you how to flood it backwards. Typically I flood it like this. I've showed you with just putting the paint on top, right? But if you notice, it causes your paint to roll because it forces it off because, it gets too heavy. So if we turn on the hairdryer, we're going to point it at the white to push the white on top of the colors, and then we're going to push it out, and then it will come up with our design. So turn on your hairdryer. We're going to go back. Okay, so there's the hairdryer method. We're going to get out on both of those. We're going to go ahead and pop the bubbles and maybe create a few more cells in these two, just to give it a little more dimension and show some more color underneath. There we go. Now it's coming out nice. So now over here. And then we're going to do this one. Ooh, look at the cells on this one. Okay, so typically when you first pour it, you don't see it right away, but as it sits for a little bit, it starts to form all these little cells. So I usually try to wait. Sometimes I don't, because sometimes you can see right away when it's going to start to form cells. This one started after I set it, so I usually wait a little bit, and then sometimes I blow on them, like these small ones over here. I'll try to make them bigger. So if you blow them on just really softly, you can't blow hard or you'll splatter the paint everywhere. So you want to just blow slowly and steadily, like in one spot or maybe like in a little circle like this. And then it will create that spot, but just make it a little wider or bigger. I'll show you. you see the difference there? I don't know if you can see that or not. You're probably too far away. All right. I'll hold it up to the camera when we're done. All right. All right. Now we're gonna hit with the torch. Make the cells a little bit bigger. Just go around the edges. Make the edges pop a little bit. And just do a little bit down the middle. I don't want to mess up the cool cells because it'll make them separate. So just be careful going over the cells with the heat. Pick the ones where you think it might need a little more, like if it's a little, you know, not a lot of color in one spot, that's the spot you want to put the torch on. Because then if there's any color underneath it, it will pop it up. And then you'll get a little more color there. But yeah, so there you go. 4x4 tiles that are coasters and 6x6 tiles. The second step to this is to resin these. Cover them so that they don't get any dust in them. And then in 24 hours, you clean them up because, you know, some of the resin will be around the edge. So you just take a sharp knife or whatever tool you like to use. And then you just clean that up real nice. And then you stick on your cork on the back, like these guys. Cork on the back. And you are done. I usually sell these in 4 coasters at a time. That's why I designed them like this. You could do more if you wanted, and then do that design on 6 or 8 of them. But typically people buy 4 of these because how many tables do you have in your living room, right? 3, maybe 4. Unless you want the same colors in the whole house. And then this is the other coaster that I was talking about. And see how the cells, I blew these cells bigger like I just showed you on the one that I was just making. So these were real tiny when they first started out, but as I blew them softly, it made them bigger and bigger, and it just gives it more dimension, it gives it more character, just looks prettier, I think. And then you get to see all the other colors that might be underneath. So that's our lesson on Trivets and coasters. If you have any questions, just say something in the comments below. Also check the description below for any links if you like any of the tools that I use. There's many tools out there, but this is probably, and this guy here, are 2 of the best tools that I paid for when it comes to spreading this, especially on bigger canvases. It just is way easier and so much time that you don't spend spreading the paint around. Anyway, if you have questions or if you have comments, I'd love to hear from you guys. I'm new at this, so it's fun for me. I just love to engage in painting and seeing what other people are doing and experiencing in the paint world. So thank you for joining me, and stay tuned for my next video.